Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick Allen. Women are accomplishing so much in the world, whether leading political movements or toppling world records or accessing previously only male-dominated industries and sporting positions. Women are doing a lot. There are also growing numbers of women, in particular millennials, who are choosing to stay at home and raise their children and breaking down the stereotypes and stigma previously associated with being a stay-at-home mom. And kudos to them, because raising the next generation is one of the most important jobs in society. There is much controversy and heated debate, however, when it comes to transgender issues, some rooted in science and some driven by emotion. What is a woman? What is a man? Should biological males identifying as women be allowed in women prisons, for example? Should girls give up their girl-only spaces in schools? For some, the answer is self-evident. For others, the situation is more nuanced. How does one balance the human rights of one protected class over another? Currently, one of the most controversial topics discussed is whether trans women or biological men who identify as a woman can participate in women's sports. Shouldn't women's sports be reserved exclusively for women? Or are trans women equally women and therefore have a right to access these sports? And if the latter, do women's sports have a future? Well, joining me now to discuss some of the issues and changes in decisions affecting women's sports is Dr. Linda Blade, who holds a PhD in kinesiology and is a former NCAA All-American and Canadian champion in track and field. She has spent the past 25 years working as a sport performance professional and is president of Alberta Track and Field in Canada. Welcome, Dr. Blade. Thank you so much for having me today, for joining me and having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So I think I'd like to start off by, because we've had you on before, and I remember we wrapped up that episode when we first talked about trans in women's sports, in that there was a call for maybe a uniform policy or some kind of policy internationally or domestically. So why don't we start with that? What is the current situation in terms of access and rights in women's sports? What's the current status?
Well, first of all, let me just clarify. A week ago, my association voted in. I stepped aside and they voted in another president. So I'm no longer president of track and field in Alberta. Okay. I just want to make sure that that's on the record. Don't want to misrepresent myself. But I was president for 9 years, and that was the association and the sport that belongs to World Athletics in terms of that's the same family of sports that we belong to. And World Athletics has done the right thing at the end of March in ruling that the female category should be for those born female only, at least at the elite level, which is the only level they deal with. But the truth is that because the International Olympic Committee has been weak and not really doing due diligence in terms of the science or even consulting broadly with female athletes and female persons in sport, they have come up with a very wishy-washy policy that sort of makes it that every sport can do their own thing. In some sports, male athletes can self-identify without any mitigation into women's sports. In other sports, a male athlete might have to reduce their testosterone. So right now in the world in 2023, the policies are absolutely scattered all over the place. World swimming, athletics, and rugby have been very strict on female only, and the rest of them are somewhere in between.
Okay, well, I appreciate for that kind of synopsis on where things are. I personally was excited to hear that there was a very, in my opinion, clear decision. We mentioned World Athletics, which is the global governing body for athletes, or athletics rather. And they said, and I quote, they will exclude male to female trans athletes who have been through male puberty, and they're going to exclude them from female sports. So that's very specific to me. That's like a very strong demarcation point.
Well, the thing is, in a way, it's virtue signaling because they will never deal at the world level with any athlete pre-puberty. I mean, they didn't even have to say that because basically all the male athletes that are going to be participating at the world level, their only world level events are after puberty. And what's happened here is that's actually been a little bit of a fly in the ointment as far as I'm concerned. Because within each country, like Canada and all the other countries, and we take track and field down to the provincial, local level, what that seems to imply is that anybody under age, let's say 14, any girl under age 14 now just has to accept that a boy can self-identify, a male-born person can self-identify, and that's just not fair.